Think about the last time you were accused of something unfair, and the second the words left the other person's mouth, you felt this surge of urgency, this need to correct the record immediately, before the accusation could settle in anyone's mind, including your own. That reflex feels like self-protection. It feels necessary, but it's actually where most people go wrong, and almost nobody realizes it in the moment, because the mistake doesn't look like a mistake. It looks like standing up for yourself. Here's what most people never realize. The biggest error in defending yourself isn't saying the wrong thing. It's the speed and intensity with which you say anything at all. The moment an accusation lands and you respond instantly, with force, with emotion, with urgency, you've already told everyone watching something important, whether it's true or not. You've told them this got to you. This connects to something called emotional contagion, the way emotional states spread from person to person, often faster than the actual content of what's being said. When you respond to an accusation with visible urgency, panic, defensiveness, raised volume, people in the room absorb that energy before they've even processed the facts. And here's the uncomfortable part. Intense reactions read as significant. Calm reactions read as unbothered, which means the tone of your defense often shapes people's conclusions more than the actual truth does. And it gets even more interesting than that, because there's a deeper mechanism at play, one connected to cognitive load. Accusations, especially unexpected ones, spike your stress response almost instantly. Your brain, flooded with that stress, isn't operating from its clearest state. It's operating from its fastest one, which is exactly why people so often say the wrong thing when defending themselves. Not because they're lying, because they're reacting from a part of the brain built for speed, not precision. This is where almost everyone makes the same mistake. They believe that the faster and more forcefully they respond, the more convincing they'll appear. But observers, whether consciously or not, tend to read a rushed, over-intense defense very differently. It starts to resemble what we associate, fairly or not, with guilt. Not because rushing is proof of anything, because innocence, in most people's unconscious model, is supposed to feel steady. And panic doesn't look steady, even when it's completely justified. There's also something happening related to psychological reactance. The more intensely you defend yourself against an accusation, the more the other person, and often the audience, feels an unconscious pull to double down on their original position, simply because being pushed against tends to trigger resistance rather than reconsideration. Which means the harder you push back in that first instinctive moment, the more entrenched the accusation can actually become, not less. So if urgency and intensity work against you, what actually works? It comes down to 3 shifts. The first is creating space before responding, even a few seconds. This feels almost impossible in the moment, because every instinct is screaming to correct the record immediately. But that brief pause does something important. It signals emotional regulation, the sense that you're not being controlled by the accusation itself. A short, deliberate silence before responding often communicates more credibility than an instant, heated denial ever could, because it suggests you're considering the claim rather than reacting to the threat of it. The second is responding to the specific claim, not the emotional charge behind it. When people feel accused, they often respond to the feeling of being accused, the injustice, the anger, the disbelief, rather than the actual content of what was said. This is where most defenses go sideways, becoming about how unfair the accusation feels rather than what actually happened. The people who defend themselves most effectively separate those two things immediately. They address the specific claim plainly, without folding in every emotion the accusation triggered. The third, and the one most people resist, is accepting that not everyone will be convinced in that exact moment, and refusing to escalate in pursuit of instant belief. This taps into something related to status dynamics. The need to be believed immediately by everyone right now is itself a kind of pressure that can distort how you come across. People who seem most credible over time are often the ones who can tolerate a moment of doubt without needing to eliminate it instantly. Their steadiness, sustained past the initial accusation, tends to do more long-term work than any urgent defense delivered in the first 60 seconds. There's a reason this mistake is so common, and it isn't a character flaw. Being accused of something you didn't do triggers a very old, very physical threat response, the same system that once prepared us to fight or flee actual danger. Modern accusations rarely require either, but the body doesn't know that distinction in the first few seconds, which is exactly why the instinct to react fast and hard feels so overwhelming, even when it works against you. Learning to defend yourself well was never really about having the right words ready. It was about learning to slow down the moment enough that the words you do choose come from clarity, not adrenaline. The most convincing thing about an innocent person's has never been the speed of their denial. It's the steadiness underneath it. True power is rarely about controlling other people. It's about controlling yourself. If you want to keep exploring the psychology behind self-respect, communication, and emotional control, consider subscribing. There's a lot more beneath the surface of how we respond under pressure than most people ever take the time to notice.